also there in Bhagavad Gita, he said, just by force one has to be active. How is this verse going? Anybody remember? It said there, because Arjuna had the inclination at one point to say that he wanted to give up his duty as a fighter and just withdraw from battle. But then Krishna, he says that he can't do that because one has the living entity by nature, it has to be active. Nahi kaschit kshanam api, yeah. Nahi kaschit kshanam api jatu tishtati akarmakrit. Yeah. There's no one who at any time which can actually be a karma crit, which is akarma. Karma means works. Nobody can refrain from doing work, not even for a moment. Not even for a small moment. So that means the impersonalists, they control their senses, they're living very strictly pious life, but still they have to be active. So where are they going to be active when they leave the body? Well, they have to get another body. So if they're not active with their senses for Krishna, they will not be awarded a spiritual body. They will just have to take another material body. Like this. That's the simple logic and statements also in the scriptures about this. So that means that the only way we can get out of the material life, having a material body, is to take the spiritual life, serve the Lord with our senses now, and then Krishna will award us a spiritual body if we do it properly. That means we also learn to be Krishna conscious in our culture. So that is the way to get free of sinful life, not to have the sinful activity coming back again. Keshit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana. Actually, there is also said, this is the conclusion, by the way, given by Shukadeva Goswami after this has been discussed. And it said also Vasudeva Parayana, and there also very very nicely Prabhupada is writing in the word for word. He says, be fully devoted to Krishna, and there also he says, with no dependence on austerities, on the pious activities, penances, or also cultivation of knowledge. APKP, this is like acronym. APKP, austerities, pious activities, cultivation of knowledge, and penances. One shouldn't be dependent on any of these things. That means we have to trust fully on Krishna. So that means we have to be like Maharaj Yudhishthira was very dharmic, following all the rules and regulations. But then once Krishna was testing him, that now I want you to even do a sinful act for my sake. Krishna wanted Yudhishthira to lie, to make a lie. Yudhishthira had never lied. So, and because of that fact, it said in the story that it is a history actually. It's in Mahabharata. It's actually Mahabharata is called Itihasa. It's actually the history. Many thousand years ago, this is what happened on the earth plan. It's a big war. In what is called the Bharatvarsha. It's the Indian part of the globe. Maharaj Parikshit was part of that. No, Yudhishthira, Maharaj Yudhishthira. And there was at one point one person which was to be killed, and to kill him one had to try and bewilder his attention so that they could kill him at that moment, isn't it? Somebody you remember? Because there was this elephant called, actually there was his son was called Ashwatthama. It's the son of Duryodhana, right? No. Dronacharya, thank you. Dronacharya, of course. Yeah. The greatest fighter, Dronacharya. So he had a son called Ashwatthama, and the Ashwatthama, he had to be killed because then the Dronacharya he would be a little bit so that Arjuna could kill him. Otherwise it would be very difficult. So, so then how can we make his mind bewildered and in that way win the battle? So then Krishna had a plan. He said, if you say that his son has been killed, then he will be properly bewildered, and then you can kill him. But he will not believe if we say that he's killed. He will understand. We just try to say to try and bewilder him. So then this, no, you make Maharaj Yudhishthira say it, because Maharaj Yudhishthira is famous for never telling a lie, and because of that Maharaj Yudhishthira said in the Mahabharata that he was like floating a little bit. I don't know if he said in the Mahabharata, but at least he said in the scriptures that he was not touching the ground. Where is it said in the scriptures? You told me.
You read the Mahabharata. I just heard that because he didn't want to tell the lie, then he touched.
Yeah. Okay, it's told by Sadhu at least. More better I have it probably from the book itself, but at least our reference is Guru Sadhu Shastra. At least Sadhu, the devotees have said that this is in the books. So he was floating over a little bit over the earth, and everybody could understand he was never telling lies. So even the enemy, Dronacharya, he believed that if Yudhishthira would say something, that would be the truth. That was just in everybody's mindset. So then they said, Krishna said, Yudhishthira, you should tell this lie because he will believe it, and then he will be devastated by that his son is dead, and then you can kill him. Then Arjuna could kill him. But Yudhishthira, he didn't want to do that because he was attached to being totally free from sinful activities. Then Krishna said, now you should do it for me, to prove your bhakti. For me, Krishna said, because that is the ultimate test of the devotee, that he's even ready to do some sin just for pleasing Krishna. That's the only way we can really fully get out of Maya. To be able to sacrifice everything. Then one is counted to be a pure devotee of Krishna. But Krishna is very, very kind. Also, he doesn't. He doesn't want to be too heavy to his devotees. So he made the arrangement that we have this elephant here, so we can kill the elephant called Ashwat, and that also has the name of Ashwatthama. So we can kill the elephant. And then, because Kshatriyas are used to kill the animals, that's kind of not so simple for a Kshatriya to do. So we can just say that I don't know how the elephant was killed actually, but at least there is an elephant, and they said that the elephant was killed. But then they mentioned just that, oh, Ashwatthama is killed, and then, but actually he said also that it is elephant because Yudhishthira didn't want to lie. So how do we solve this problem that just sounded like Ashwatthama? The elephant is killed. I have to tell the whole truth. Yudhishthira was strictly, he didn't want to lie. So okay, so then we can have a person blowing in the conch. So I think it was Arjuna, he could blow in the conch at the same time when Yudhishthira was saying the elephant. So then the Dronacharya would not be able to hear that part of the sentence. So yeah, that was a good plan. So then they did that. So then the Maharaj Yudhishthira was then crying, oh, Ashwatthama, and then the elephant. He was then mentioning while the conch was blowing. And then when the conch was finished, then he said, is killed. Isn't it? Yeah?
Actually, this was the other way. He said, Ashwatthama iti hatha gaja.
Oh yeah, Ashwatthama iti hatha gaja. Yeah. So gaja.
Ashwatthama indeed is killed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because in Sanskrit is like this. You can the order of the words can be like that. Yeah. So Ashwatthama hatha iti gaja. Yeah. So yeah. So gaja was the last word, and then they were blowing the conch. So it sounded like Ashwatthama is killed. So then Duryodhana, he was devastated, and then he lost his composure, and then they could kill him. Like this. So and because it was for Krishna's sake, it was not sinful. So that's the solution. That's the only solution, and will always be the only solution to get out of Maya and get free from all sinful acts. Because otherwise, when the false ego is there, the false ego is the root cause of sinful activities. It is a fact. And because of that false ego, then the material senses are manifested. It's stated in also the process of creation, in the third canto of the Bhagavatam. He said that from the false ego, the living entity, he has some contact with material enjoyment through the false ego, and the original false ego is he is considering himself separate from Krishna, and then he starts seeing something as being different from Krishna. Vayam dvitiya abhiniveshata shat ishat apritasa viparyo asmriti. It creates a reverse situation, an inauspicious situation for a living entity, where he loses his memory, asmriti. He also becomes afraid. Dvitiya, he becomes dvitiya abhiniveshata, he becomes absorbed in the dvitiya, in the dualities of the material world. Icha, dvesha, they're counted as being two. Icha, one has desires, and dvesha, one hates something. These are the dualities. And where are those dualities? They are in the mind, called also sankalpa and vikalpa. It can also be translated to be determined to have something and also be determined to reject something. So it said that the false ego in contact with the mode of goodness. Tai Jayasa, yeah, that's the next thing. Yeah. Vikurvanat, it says by the interaction of the false ego with the mode of goodness, then the material mind is created, and that immediately has sankalpa and vikalpa. It has desires and it hates something. It tries to avoid it or something. And then the false ego in the mode of passion, tejasa to the kurvanat, buddhi abut sati. Then the false ego is springing up. No, sorry, the false ego in the contact with passion is making the buddhi, the intelligence, coming up. And it's also explained in another way, in another one of the scriptures. It's just like if you start a computer. This was explained on the seminar I attended by Bhakti Vigyan Goswami. He explained this is also in the Shastras. That you, it's how the consciousness is actually awakening. When you start up, well, let's say it's actually how you start up the bodily computer. When we come to consciousness in the very, very awakening, actually every day, the first thing is just, or maybe it's actually an awakening of the living entity when it comes to the material, at least it's there. Then the living entity in the beginning, it's just consciousness, the chitta. It's actually the original consciousness. It is pure and clear in the beginning, but because of slight contact with the propensity to be apart from Krishna, then because of the living entity is choosing this, then he's getting independent consciousness. But in the beginning, when he's waking up, then the consciousness just has this one thing, and that is existence. That's the only thing. That existence. Not even I, but just existence. Then immediately after the consciousness is awakened, then the false ego is the next element. This goes from subtle to gross. So the next element then is, the false ego is springing up and says, I. So the sentence then becomes, I exist. So not just existence, but it's me who exists. And then after that, it is the mind is coming up. And the mind says, I want something. And also, very soon later, it is I don't want something else. I want something. So there is some sense of some kind of desire is springing up like this. And then the intelligence is the next door neighbor of the mind. That's the next manifestation. And intelligence will say, I will act to get that object. So that's why it said that after the intelligence is springing up from the mode of passion, then also the senses is very quickly following. They're also in the subtle body. So senses are subtle. So they also come in the mode of passion like this. So then how to get something? You have the senses. I want to see something, want to hear something, want to touch, all these things, smell and taste. And then to actually get the sense object, then is the manifestation of the gross sense organs. And that is coming by the false ego in contact with the mode of ignorance. Tamasas to Vikurvanat. And then it's coming the earth, water, fire, air and ether. which is containing the objects of the senses. Earth is containing the smell, and actually it's containing all the senses. It begins with the gross thing, it's just sound, material sound, or ether. Ether contains material sound. Sorry, the first gross sense object is ether. It contains the sounds, so one can hear what one wants to hear. And also the presiding demigod for the sound will then be there. It's the 10 directions, and it also gives space. Then you have to have a space to hear. And then you have the movement. To get the sense of human has to move to get it, and then it's the air. Air is facilitating movement. And also the demigod, Anil, for the air, and then so on and so forth. It's coming then water, Varuna, and then the fire. Actually fire first, and then water, and then earth as the last thing. Then you have the whole gross body manifest with the gross sense organs. And then you have a fully sinful person who can live in the material world. Not so sinful in the beginning. He's enjoying the senses through the Vedic rules and regulations by doing yagya. Stated by Prabhu that the material world in the beginning, everybody who is born in the beginning of material creation, they know we should do yagya and please the demigods so we can get our sense desires fulfilled. Because one has desires and one is immediately doing some sacrifices to please the demigods to get sense gratification. Then as the living entity gets more and more impious, he's going more away from even worshipping the demigods, and then becomes just totally sinful. And then he's actually just punished. And just hell is there actually for the living entity. Any comments or questions? Yeah?
Just a small question for clarification.
Yeah.
How is this, the creation to be understood? Like, is there mentioned anything in the scriptures how long it takes, or like, it does happen like this when you come from the spiritual world?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Can you give the question again?
And the question is, how fast is this, like what we just heard described, that the material elements are coming one by one and from each other and all the senses? Does it just happen like instantly when you go to the material world and the material world is created? Is anything described?
It's mentioned it successively happens this and then this and then this. Time is not mentioned.
It was just a small.
The time element is immediately coming. Krishna is entering actually in the beginning of the creation. The Mahatattva is like in the beginning an unagitated state. Then he said, Mahatattva is all the objects, all the elements of the material world. It's counted as 24 usually. And then you have the living entity there is at number 25. And then Krishna is entering as Kala. It's time personified. And by this entering of Krishna, then the material elements, the whole Mahatattva is agitated. Because then the time is coming into the picture, the material world is agitated, it's said by the destinations of the living entities. All the bijas, they say the seeds of desire of the living entities are then sprouting and then manifesting, that they have to have different kinds of material bodies to facilitate their desires in space. And then we have all the elements coming then. So time is definitely there. I guess it goes quite quick, the manifestation. I don't know.
There's one point.
Yeah.
So if you talk about the very cause of lust, actually it's, Prabhupada mentions that in Prabhu-2 3:37, that it's actually the original love of Godhead, and that is withdrawn from Krishna, then it takes the shape of lust.
Yeah.
And this is the real cause of lust, and false ego, and the other thing. And therefore, it's also the whole point of this chapter. So actually, when the solution is again to change it into lust into love of Godhead, then that will remove all kinds of lust and sinful activity.
Yeah. So, any other comments or questions? We'll stop there. Thank you.